Good afternoon from Sacred Space at Titania's Realm. The time is 5:09 p.m. Brisbane time on the 23rd of October 2025, Thursday. It's been another really hot day, but it's currently quite windy, so that hopefully might, cool the air down a bit or put a break in the weather. So I've started this video in the Birdie Boys room, but when the sun sets, I'll have to put their towels on their cages, and I'll probably have to move us out of here. Isn't that right, Birdie Boys? Yes, Mama, you haven't organised yourself very well. No, I haven't. I'm tired from working on my opals. I posted a YouTube video up earlier, but in case you missed it, I cut these apart and still working on them. I have to go through all the grits, polishing it up, but that one's going to be quite a nice piece, I think. And this one, still working on that one too. So I'm exhausted, but I got two pieces out of that one opal, because basically the middle of it was just kind of this weird opal type mud, kind of a mud, and not worth preserving. I did try to preserve the weird little spirit face that appeared in the mud, but it was every time I went over to go through and polish and another grit, it with the coarse sintered bits and the medium and the fine, it was losing its appearance. That's just silly holding on to that anyway. But I was thinking about keeping it and preserving it by pouring resin over it. But do I need to preserve pareidolia faces of fairy and spirits in my rocks? Not really. But it did kind of amuse me a bit that I was very tempted to do so. That's how you know I'm a real witch, that I find these interactions from the spirit realm very bemusing at times, and other times quite lovely. But if you indulge in it too much, it can get a bit scary too, especially if you have something sent to you from enemies that is dark and oppressive and evil. But anyway, let me just put the light on. Don't really need the light that much, but I've had to close the blind because the sunlight burns my eyes. So we'll just make do with what we can, and then read until it's time to get out of the birdie room, or my studio, whichever way you want to call it. Right, we're up to chapter 6. I'll just close that window a bit too. Simon. I had not been in Melbourne long when I found him. I had been in the motel at Carlisle Street, St Kilda, for 2 days and 2 nights. Afraid both nights of the ghostly teenagers who, hungry for heroin, are hookers the way the public wants its hookers. They are sick, underfed, and desperate enough to suffer the abuse visited upon them by the procession of bored, predatory sons out in their mothers' cars, looking for easy prey. I was afraid of the girls because they needed heroin more than they needed food and shelter, and I had not reached that stage yet. I was afraid of the men in the cars, even the ones who were not abusive, even the ones who wanted straight, protected, non-violent sex. I had not reached that stage yet either. I was lucky enough to find a young foreign guy who was so satisfied with the way I masturbated him against a dump bin in the supermarket car park that he tipped me more than the cost of my service. and even bought me a hamburger. He felt so ashamed that, in broken English, he tried to fool both of us into thinking it was a date and that he had met his first local girl. But I had to burst the bubble. When, in the manner of a frightened teenage boy hoping for a second date, he nervously asked if he could see me again. I drew a rudimentary map of the streets around Berkeley and Carlisle streets on the back of a serviette. "You can see me again, I'll be there," I said, pointing to an intersection on the map. I'm sure I got the map wrong. It was on my second night, and after I had moved to all sorts of corners, by all sorts of people, that I first saw Simon. He was alone, drunk, and beautiful. He carried a bag, a little day pack. "Are you looking for a date?" I asked, doing a B-grade movie-inspired version of the way street hookers are meant to talk. "A date?" He stopped and said to me, "Yes, I am looking for a date, young lady. I am looking for my birthday. Not the anniversary of my birth, mind you, but the original day itself. I'm looking for a lost youth. You might say that this is where all the lost youths come to age, where they all come of age, where they come, where they age, and you'd be right on each score. But I'm not looking for just any lost youth. I'm looking for mine. What about you?" He said softly, "What the hell are you doing?" You know, I like him already. That's a sort of whimsical, philosophical non-answer I would have dredged up from my psyche too. Just going to be back. Just put my bookmark here. I need water. It's very, very hot. Water. Shafta mayen vissa song. Mayen, shafta mayen vissa song. What do you say to that, Bo? Sure you do speak Hebrew, Bo. You just don't know that you speak Hebrew. Yellow bird, fly high in banana tree. No, I'm off key. Never mind. I try. Right, I got the water. Let's pour the water. My hands are sore from all the dremeling and cutting the apple apart and then trying to sand it and grind down the cutting off bits. And I've worked hard again today on that little project. I wasn't going to do anything today. I was going to have complete rest because I worked so hard yesterday. And why won't this bottle open, for the love of all the gods? Is it broken? No. Just needed convincing. So yes, I'm just, I've got to start putting my Halloween decorations out. It's only the 23rd and it's not till Friday the 31st, but everyone else has started getting in earlier. I might as well start getting things out too, because I've got a lot of decorations to put out this year, because my neighbour down the road, Avril, gave me a massive big bag full of decorations, and I've got Lord Death back. Lynn lends him to me every year for Halloween. So I've got a lot to do. I've got a lot to do, people of Earth. It's a bit overwhelming. But maybe I'll do it tomorrow. Start putting things out and keep myself busy and take a break from the opals. that's lovely, just what I needed. Right, where are we? Oh yeah, he asks her softly, "What the hell are you doing?" He took my hand very gently and examined it carefully. Then he slowly turned my arm over so that the softer side faced upwards and examined that too. I didn't know what he was doing, and I didn't know what I was doing either. I was tired, and the only thing I knew was that I didn't want him to let go of my arm. I stood there with my eyes welling up with tears, and I wondered if he could tell. It will sound ridiculous since I had only just met him, but I didn't want him to see me that way. I didn't want him to see me soliciting, and I even thought of apologising. When he took my arm, I felt different, not just from the other girls on the street, but different from the way I had ever felt. It might have been the way he spoke to me, playing games with words the way he did, or it might have been the gentleness with which he took my hand and then my arm. It might have been the way he asked me what I was doing. He ran 2 fingers slowly down the inside of my arm. How can I describe what that did to me? It was gentle and completely non-sexual. He didn't want anything from me, and as I closed my eyes and crushed the tears out onto my face, he continued in that voice of his, "You're not an addict, are you?" he asked incredulously, for he already knew the answer. "No," I said, embarrassed. "Oh, please, miss, I don't know you. Look, it's none of my business, and I've probably had too much to drink, but you shouldn't be here. You shouldn't be doing this." "They," he said, pointing around him, "they think they have to. Maybe they do. I don't know. But you don't." I just stood there with my upturned arm in his hand, crying. "Have you eaten, miss?" he asked me. We walked to Ackland Street, where I let him buy me a bowl of pasta. He asked me if I preferred white or red wine. I wanted to tell him everything by way of explanation, but he didn't want to know, not at first anyway. He wanted to know if I read books. What do you read? This was surreal. I don't think anybody had ever asked me what books I read. I had been asked at school by disbelieving teachers if I had read or finished reading a prescribed book, but Simon wanted to know whether and what I read for pleasure. When I saw that he was serious about this, I started to tell him, "I do read for pleasure, and I did even before I was with Simon, but still, I had to think about it." As I was speaking, I felt as though a heavy weight was being lifted off my chest, and I could breathe more easily. "What are you two munchkins doing?" "Oh, it's the paper scuffling, not you." "Okay." It was the way he spoke to me and the way I responded to how he spoke He took me to dinner. We drank wine, perhaps a little too much. My hair's full of opal dust. It feels all claggy. We drank wine, perhaps a little too much, and talked books. He paid for everything. We went for a long walk from one end of Ackland Street to the other, past the cake shops, the delis, the restaurants and bars, past Luna Park and all the people down to the Esplanade and along the beach. My German mother, this is a little segue but quite a cute story, got a part-time job working in a kosher bakery in Ackland Street, and it was, you know, very kosher, very ultra-Orthodox Jews ran the shop. And so Mum's standing there, you know, I don't know what obviously she was helping prepare the food, or maybe she was there to clean. I can't remember what role she was doing in that shop actually now, but anyway, she was standing there. And this man came in his gabardine suit and his big hat, and she didn't understand that he was the rabbi. And so anyway, he walks into the kitchen, you know, good morning. And my mother said, good morning, you know, because my mother's a very polite woman, very, you know, very couth woman for a narcopath actually. They can be very charming and have lots of social graces. It's hard to wrap your mind around it actually when they can be so monstrous, often to their own brood. But anyway, so good morning, sir, she says to the gentleman, not realising he's the rabbi. Good morning, he says, and he sort of marches over to, you know, the bench, the bakery bench, and you know, there's a big bowl of eggs. And he starts cracking the eggs, and he was of course inspecting them for blood spots to make sure that all the eggs going into the kosher cakes and puddings and desserts and breads were kosher, because in Judaism, if you keep kashrut, which is the name for keeping kosher, if there's blood in your eggs, they're not, you have to throw them away, they're not to go into the food. And if they do go into the food, they taint the food, it's no longer kosher, you have to throw the whole thing out, right? So he was there to make sure that everything was kosher and not contaminated. And so he's breaking these eggs one after, and each egg he breaks, my mum goes, oh, because she's not Jewish, she doesn't understand what the reason behind that was. And so after he's broken about half a dozen eggs, she yells out, stop that now, you're wasting all the eggs. She's completely naive and oblivious to the laws of kashrut because she's not Jewish. So the rabbi stands there and says, but this is what I'm here for, this is my job. And they start getting into a blazing row. Anyway, the boss comes in and says to my mother, no, he's paid to break all the eggs. That's what he's here for. It's his job. And my mum goes, I don't understand it. Who wastes eggs? Do you know, I was in the war. One Sifri doesn't waste eggs. And the rabbi's kind of looking at her going, oh, yes, I understand. It's a terrible waste, but you don't understand, we have to, it's the law. And she's still trying. She came home and tells me, and she's all het up. And at that time I was about 10 or 11. So I had no idea about the laws of kashrut either. And so I'm saying to her, why is he breaking all the eggs? She goes, ach was, ach doch Mensch, I don't know, such a waste. And she says, but you know, she said, I think it was a good thing because they're the bloody ones he put to the side and threw out. And she said, I kind of understood what he was doing after a while. It's like, what, you mean there's blood in the eggs? And she says, yes, sometimes you get a bit of blood in the eggs. And how is that possible, Mum? She says, oh, because the chicken is starting to form. Oh, that's why. I had no idea. Anyway, but that was just so cute. And she didn't lose her job over it, even though she was just about ready to go to fisticuffs with the rabbi over smashing all the eggs, because they realised she was, you know, ignorant of the rules of kashrut, and they didn't even actually try to explain it to her. They probably thought it would be too complicated or something. But anyway, they kind of thought it was cute how she's going, stop wasting the eggs, think of the war. And it's like, when you have it from that perspective, she's kind of right. It is a dreadful waste, but it's a biblical injunction from way back. Actually, probably not even all that way back, probably from Talmudic times, if the truth be known. But anyway, you kind of have to chuckle sometimes. I tolerated my mother very well in Melbourne. We'd go to the botanical gardens. I think they were in Caulfield. Was they in Caulfield? No, Elwood. Somewhere in Elwood. We'd go down to the botanical gardens, and a lot of the ultra-Orthodox Jewish women would be sitting together, you know, with their wigs and all dressed very conservative. And then there's my mother, the femme fatale, looking gorgeous and, you know, vibrant. And of course, you know, she's not Jewish, so not made to wear a wig by that tradition. And they're like talking about her, but in Yiddish. And then Mum would turn back and say, I understood what you said. And they'd be like, how did you understand? She said, every third word is German. I understood you. And they're like, oh, we're so sorry. She's like, no, it's okay. I find it kind of cute. And I was like, oh, that's sweet, you know. So there were a few little things like that. And, you know, as I told you in a story the other day, her sitting on the apartment letter boxes with Mr. Meinrad, who was very religious. So you know, it's funny how you make friends and cross-cultural motifs, and not funny but actually quite lovely, you know, people being kind to each other and open-minded. How life should be right across the board, you know. It's how I like to live my life anyway. Well, where were we? Not so open-minded that your brains fall out though and put yourself in dangerous situations, but, you know, just be realistic. Not everyone's going to be kind, but, you know, just accept and be tolerant of other people. Right, now where were we? Ah yes, they went to Ackland Street and walked along the beach, which is really lovely there down there in St Kilda. It was, you know, when I was a child in the 1974, 75, 76, I came back to New Zealand for high school in 1977, so yeah, it was a lovely spot. But the school I went to, St Kilda Primary School, was so vicious and bullying and violent that my teacher begged my mother to get me out of there, which she did actually take her advice. So it was a rough neighbourhood in the 70s. I can't speak about what it's like now. What do I read? Lots of stuff. You like a lot of science fiction because they always deal with, you know. No, she said, I like a lot of science fiction because they always deal with, you know, very clever ideas. Who do you like, he wanted to know. Isaac Asimov, of course. He's great. You've heard of him? Actually, yes. Who else do I like in science fiction? Let's see. Have you read Footfall? Footfall? Yeah. No, who's it by? Oh, it's great. It's by Larry Niven and Jerry Purnell. They wrote The Mote in God's Eye. Have you read that? No. Do they write together? They write together and separately, but they're much better together. Who else do you like? Who else? Terry Pratchett. Is he science fiction? No, it's more humour, really black humour, you know. I've got a book here of Isaac Asimov that I still haven't actually read, so that might be the next book I read to you on this channel, because let me write a note of that. Either that or we'll plough into Lord of the Rings after all, because Tolkien is one of my favourites. Let me just write next books to read. This is a 3i Atlas, doesn't take us out on the 29th of October, you understand? And if influenza A doesn't kill us all, because they're scaremongering with that at the moment as well. And, you know, they just find a new catastrophe every day. It's all bollocks. Well, not maybe complete bollocks, but I'm just going to carry on reading my stories to you, Planet Earth. No matter what, no matter who. If the aliens invade, I'll be like, welcome to my channel. All interdimensional entities, take a seat, sit down, buckle up. It's going to be a bumpy ride with all my trauma stories, but by the time I finish, you might have a bit of an understanding of human nature and how people survive and thrive and grow into our wholesomeness and the business of the isness. Am I right, people of Earth? Isaac Asimov, or number 2, Lord of the Rings. I've got another Tolkien book. I've got The Adventures of Tom Bombadil as well. I think that's all. I've got a book, Unfinished Stories by Tolkien, but it's a bit, because they're unfinished, it's a bit dry and hard. It would be too difficult to read out loud. I'd recommend you, if you're a Tolkien fan, buy your own copy and read it in your own time. But anyway, there's 2 potentiates there I've written down. Will I remember? Probably not. So what I'll do is I'll rip it out of a little notepad and I'll put it somewhere where I can see it, because I do forget people there. And you know, my YouTube audience, my subscribers, my likers, my commenters, you know, feel free to recommend good books for me to read, because if I have to, I can always go and join the public library and get a book out and read to you from, you know, books that you've chosen. But nobody really interacts that much except for Elaine and a few other people, so I just sort of go in and read what I feel like and hope that you enjoy it too. Right, I'm sure some of you do enjoy it. I've suddenly got 160 subscribers. I've only been doing this channel for about 9 years, so I don't know all of a sudden where all these wonderful subscribers have come from, but thank you for your support. Let's continue on with reading the story. Must be professional, my darlings. Right. So let's start from the top. No, it's more humour, really black humour, you know? No. No what? No, I don't know. Are you making fun of me? No, I was about to ask you the same thing. What do you mean? I've never heard of any of these people. Terry Pratchett? You're making that up. I am not. How can you say that? I said, laughing. What have you read of Terry Pratchett's? Oh, you're on your sweet big Hermie. You're ready to go to bed. My goodness. Let's just finish this page and I'll interrupt us to put their tails on their cages. Oh, come on. What is this? Some kind of test, I said, gently pushing into him. Well, you can't call someone one of your favourite authors and then not be able to name one of their books. Makes you sound like an idiot. I beg your pardon, mister. Who are you calling an idiot? No one yet. It's conditional. You have to earn it. Oh, good. I like a challenge. Well what? Terry Pratchett. I want 3 titles. Or I'm an idiot? You said it, babe. Okay. Mort, The Reaper Man, and The Pressure's On. Shut up. Can't you make up another title by an author you've just made up? Shut up, Simon. I'm thinking. The Colour of Magic. Oh, very good, very fast. Am I an idiot? No. Anyone who can lie that fast under pressure. Hey, more people have heard of my favourites than those. Frederick Exel and Frederick Swain. Frederick Exley and Stefan Zweig. Whatever. Oh, and while we're correcting names, it's William Empson, not Roy Hampson. Who's Roy Hampson? He used to host excremental television shows aimed at my mother before you were born. You shouldn't even know about him. This is not Terry Pratchett we're talking about, he said, giving me a little squeeze. Simon, yeah, I like you. You are an idiot. We walked and he told me everything about his brothers, about William and May, his parents, and about their marriage. He told me about Empson, the poet and critic, and about Empson, the dog, Simon's dog. We talked about our schools, the one I had attended as a student and the one in which Simon had been a teacher. He asked whether I had heard of the spate of child stealing in Melbourne, and I told him that I had. Then he told me about Carlo, the little boy he had taught, who was among the first to be kidnapped. Carlo was always the last to come and play with Empson whenever I brought him to school. Why? Was he scared of dogs? It wasn't that so much. He was just shy. He was small for his age and very quiet, too quiet to be popular. I think popularity requires a certain amount of extroversion, at least with children. Quiet kids can only hope to be forgotten. That's the best that can happen to them. That's what happens if they're lucky. If they're unlucky, they get picked on, don't you think? I think it's possible to be quiet and popular as an adult. Really? Yes. If a man is rich or good at sport, he can be popular even if he doesn't talk much. And a woman? She has to be pretty or sexy, attractive in some way. If she's beautiful, she doesn't have to be the life of the party. I think you're right, but you're right about little children. Well, Carlo was young and little, and neither of his parents had English as a first language. You could just see the beginning of a life of pain for him. What did you do? I tried to help him. You see, the kids read out loud to us, and even though you try to do it one-on-one, the other kids listen, or at least some of them do. And an anxious child like Carlo? Right. An anxious little boy like Carlo would have been acutely aware of any other kids listening, so it wasn't easy to tell whether he was a slow reader because he was having difficulty actually reading, or whether it was just that he was embarrassed to do it in front of the other kids. So I arranged for him to stay back after school a couple of days a week so that I could read to him and he could read back to me, all of it alone. I had to fix it with his mother, get permission. Yeah, I had to get permission, but I also didn't want her to think there was anything terribly wrong, because there wasn't. He was within the normal range. I just thought he could be higher within it. So I read to him and he'd read back to me. Sometimes I'd even sing to him. It seemed to be working. He was also more confident during the day with the other kids. You sound like a dream, teacher. Wait till you hear the end of it, he exhaled. You'll wish it was a dream. We'd had one of our usual sessions after school. Everyone else had gone. The school was deserted. When we had finished, we went to check on Empson to see if he needed his water bowl filled, that sort of thing. It was actually more of a reward for Carlo. Empson was all right, but it was sort of a treat for Carlo to get to play with him without having to share him with the other kids. That's so sweet. On that note, I'm just going to put the towels on the birdie boys' cages because it's going to get triggering, and we might as well just take a break now. Oh, my birdie boys. You never have to worry about being birdie napped, do you? Unless you do what Charlie did and walk away. She walked away one time, was lost for 4 days. Mama was frantic. Frantic she was. And then the Scott family gave her back to me. And we were so happy. We were all so happy. Yes. You don't have to go to bed yet, boys. I'm just getting this ready before it gets dark. Mum's finished reading. Just close your little curtains and put you to sleepy boys. Kermie, you need to go back in your own cage, mister. Yes, you know how it works. You've got your own beautiful cage that cost your mother an arm and a fucking leg. So you can go back in your own little bed and be a good little birdie boy. Right, we're all organised. We're all organised, people of Earth. I'm exhausted, but we're organised. Right, here we go. They're good little birdies today. They didn't go out today, it was just too bloody hot. And then it was too windy, and I was out there working on my apples, so it's just been another busy day. What am I doing with my life, people of Earth? I don't know. I'm carrying on as if everything's perfectly normal and wonderful, and I have some kind of future ahead of me, just like I did all through the COVID regime for the last 5 years. When in doubt, carry on, people of Earth. Never let the bastards grind you down. My favourite motto, and it's true. Right, now, so Angelique's just told him how sweet it was that he let him play with his little doggy, which I think is very sweet too. Well, on this day, Carlo told me he needed to go to the toilet. So off he went, and I waited for him. I waited about, I don't know, 10 minutes or so, and he hadn't come back. I gave him another 10 minutes because I thought that maybe he'd had an accident in the toilet and he might be trying to clean himself up. He was 5.5 or 6. Kids would shit themselves at school all the time. It was terrible for them and for us. We should have got danger money. Anyway, I didn't want to check on him too soon because I didn't want to risk embarrassing him. I didn't want him to feel humiliated. Well, after a little while, I had to check because he still wasn't back. And Simon put the palm of one hand to his face and let it slide slowly from his forehead over his eyes, past his mouth to his chin. And he was gone. He wasn't in the toilets or the changing rooms. He wasn't with Empson. I ran around the schoolyard calling out his name. My mouth was dry. I was absolutely terror-stricken. I've been over it 1,000,000 times in my mind. That's the way it happened. That's the way I told it to the police. It might have been the worst moment of my life, and they still haven't found him. That was the last day I remember feeling really good about anything over a sustained period. I can't believe I'm telling you this. I haven't talked this way to anyone, Simon said with amazement. Do you blame yourself? Well, I know I shouldn't, but of course I do. My arrogance kicked in, my naive liberal faith in intervention and getting involved. I thought that by involving myself in the little boy's life, I could do him some good, as though I knew something about anything. Don't you think people should get involved? That's just the thing. I have always thought people should get involved with the problems of other people. People don't help enough. It's probably the closest thing I ever had to a philosophy, a pragmatic philosophy. You see it every day. Most people are they're not evil, they're just lazy, I volunteered. Apathetic. You're sure they're not evil? I asked him. Some people are definitely, unequivocally evil, but most people are not. Most people are simply apathetic, unaware, and frightened. A lot of bad gets done by people who are not bad people. Maybe it's always been this way, but I think it's more so now than ever. I saw a documentary about the 60s on TV the other day. They showed all these people in their 20s and 30s sitting around holding candles singing, "We shall overcome." They were protesting against racism and the Vietnam War. It's not that people in their 20s and 30s then were better or smarter than people in their 20s and 30s now. So what is it? It's the times. The times. They have changed. Where once people were told that the answers were blowing in the wind, now it's they who are blown by the wind generated by the market. The ruthless pursuit of the bottom line is the siren song of the times, and the song is played over the public address system, in banks, in stores, in supermarkets. It's played when you are downsized because your company can replace you with somebody in another country for $2 a day. And it's played whenever you call up anywhere needing assistance and they put you on hold because they've cut back on staff in order to increase their share price, which is quite comical because there's supposed to be a stimulus package coming from the government. So just out of idle curiosity, not because I care one way or the other, because I'm broke anyway, money or no money, it makes no difference, it's too late to care anymore, but just out of whimsical shits and giggles, I rang the Centrelink line today, and by the time I got through their computer screening that goes on forever, they informed me that it was a 45-minute wait to speak to an operator. 45 minutes. I burst out laughing. Rati was here, she heard me. She said, "What are you laughing at?" I said, Centrelink, they never change. I said, I don't really care one way or the other. I just wanted the information as to when that money's coming. And just because it would help at the moment. It'd be lovely to have that extra bit of a boost. But, you know, I said it's not the end of the world if I don't have it next fortnight or the fortnight after or what have you. But I said, they promise you things and then you can't communicate with them about anything. Oh, and I also laughed because their computer system showed that I'm not on there. I haven't linked Centrelink to my MyGov, and I don't want to. I don't want them digging into all my business and, you know, being like digital ID, just feeding into every aspect of my life. If they want to know something about me, they can come on my YouTube or ask me to my face, which invariably they do. So, but anyway, I just had to laugh at that, you know, 45-minute wait. Jesus. Not Jesus, but some things never change. But I guess it was kind of 11 o'clock-ish in the morning, so near lunchtime. But, you know, it's just... And I'll never forgive them. I wasn't affected at the time, thank the gods, but I'll never forgive them for what they did to all those poor people on Robodebt. And many of them killed themselves from the stress of it. I'll never forgive that. So, you know, here I am, soldiering on, speaking my truth, reading stories on YouTube. But people have always been obsessed with the bottom line. Why is it any different now? Has money always been the siren song? It has never been so loud. It's never been so ubiquitous. Mind you, he wrote this book in 2005. It was published, so 20 years later, digital ID and greed and corruption and even governmental genocides right across the globe. Money talks. Money can buy anything, including people's lives, people of Earth. Don't ever forget that. Don't ever, ever forget it. I, for one, will never let anyone forget it. I'll be fighting with my last breath till the day I die what they did to my species. Which sometimes these videos are in part me fighting, not just for my own survival to thrival, but just to keep the truth percolating out there in the world, because somehow they managed to mass formation psychosis people into obfuscating and denying truth. And truth, as a child sexual abuse survivor, truth is very, very important to me. It's as important to me as breathing is. That's why I don't tolerate other people's atrophies and deceptions and fucking evil. Been through enough of it. Enough, people of Earth. Quite enough. But anyway, I had trouble getting up when Rati came to clean this morning because I was up all night, not able to sleep because I was kind of on this weird euphoria that I get when I work physically at something all day. And so I had very bad insomnia, and then woke up at 6 and put myself back to sleep and slept in. And when Rati arrived, I literally had to jump out of bed to let her in. I'm like looking at her like a zombie, and she's like, "Are you all right? Are you all right?" She was really worried. I said, "Oh, I just didn't sleep last night." She said, "Go back to bed if you want." She's so kind to me. I said, "No, Rati, it's nearly bloody 10 o'clock. I have to exist in the world whether I want to or not sometimes." So I pulled myself together and ended up having a good afternoon, because I, worked on those stones, and then I made a lovely big hockey noodle beef stir fry with lots of the lovely vegetables that I get delivered now, and made a big meal and had that for lunch. And I'm tired, but I feel pretty good today. Today is a good day, people of Earth. So he replies, the siren song of money. It has never been so loud. It's never been so ubiquitous. It has never before so routinely, so blatantly ousted and nullified citizenship and notions of the common good. What was once called the common weal. He's right about that. Where's the commonwealth now? Only 10 men in the entire world own all the wealth in the world and control us like we're little puppets, like lemmings off a cliff. Fuck you, you bastards. You know who you are. Anyway, it has never before so successfully colonised men's souls. Georgia Guidestones, anyone? They tried to hide that evidence. Quick Smart didn't know by blowing it up. Yes, Mama T has not forgotten. Mama T knew about this 25 years ago. That's why I won't play to other people's sick, twisted, evil games. There's always an end game, and it's never good for the innocent, deluded, mass formation psychotics. Never good, people of Earth. There's been many genocides in the 20th century and this century, and it never ends good. Except yours, says Angelique. Except mine. Not just mine, I know that. But you see, if you are not with this zeitgeist, if you are a victim of it, or if you resist it, you're out in the cold. It's exactly what happened to me back in 1995 when my marriage crumbled. I was not only put out in the cold and to dire poverty, but I was brutalised and threatened and strangled 3 times by Jewish and Israeli men who were supposed to, at the very bare minimum, love me. Like, what the fuck was that? But that's how they not just physically attempted to kill me, but the soul slaughter that went on with slandering me in my community went on for decades, people of Earth. That's why ultimately I had to walk away from organised religion. You were left to sell crafts at weekend markets. He's right about that too. What do you mean, she asks. I mean, you don't belong. You're marginal. You don't count. You live hand to mouth off intermittent piecework or part-time work, or you're on welfare. You are ignored by the mainstream to their detriment, because I tried to save you during the COVID epoch. Your othering cost you your very own lives and health and the fertility and future of your children. It's heinous and awful, But that's what happens when you silence the marginalised. You are ignored by the mainstream. You are part of that nation, which is the less fortunate of our two nations, and the other nation doesn't want to know about you. What two nations? The rich and the poor. It's how Disraeli described 19th century England. And which nation do you belong to? The marginal one? I think so. Ever since someone took Carlo, that's when I first realised it. What about you? Me? Am I marginal? Yeah. Oh no, I'm gonna make money. Well, you're doing a great job so far. Actually, I was marginalised long before my marriage broke down when I came here to Brisbane, Australia in 1988, and a woman called Pam Hopf accused me of being a Nazi in my Jewish congregation. Slandered me, and I had to fight that, my basic human rights and the human rights of my baby daughters and the human rights of my German mother who had actually lived through Nazi Germany. It was evil what I was put through, absolutely evil. But that's how they marginalised me, how they put into motion the loss of my house, my business, my swimming pool, my company cars, my little insulated, safe little idea of being a religious Jewish woman, progressive woman, and for a year Orthodox convert, how they chipped away and ultimately stripped me of everything so they could sit back in 2020 and laugh in my face about my beautiful shoes, which they were envious of, even that. And that, my friends, was a very reputable, well-respected doctor in our community. Hyenas it was. And do you know what I did? I laughed right back at him in his ugly, othering, spoilt, pretentious, white privileged, obnoxious fucking face. And then I walked out. No man, Jewish, non-Jewish, human, non-human, gets to treat me like I'm some kind of dirty, worn-out, ragged whore just because I ended up poor, which was something that they implemented back in 1989. And no, I will never completely forgive it either. Not that, and not the 3 strangulations that came along after, because that was another physical attack on my life that left me, no doubt, with sleep apnea, although that might have been caused by the drownings in my childhood, let's be fair here, but, you know, left me very, very broken and vulnerable with 2 little children to raise on my own. It was evil what I was put through. And those people that did it, one still haunts me from time to time. The others got away with it. Chapter 7. And I'll see them in hell one day. Those people that got away with it. I will be relentless. Because ultimately they cost me my grandchildren. My daughter's so traumatised by the time the COVID epoch came along that they just jumped how high to whatever authority figure squawked at them about donuts and football tickets. Had they not already been so severely traumatised as very young children, witnessing their mother being strangled they might have had a bit of cojones to stand up and say no, like I did. But unfortunately, the sword of Damocles didn't swing that way with my beautiful daughters. It's why I keep saying on my channel, never let the bastards grind you down. Stand up and be counted, and speak your truth, even if in the beginning it's only a whisper. Don't ever be silenced. They shun you, let them. They silence you, find another way to get your message out. Don't let them get away with the depopulation agendas implemented back in roughly the same time, actually, those grindstones went up, wasn't it? 1995? 1995 was a very bad year for me. It was a year my marriage crumbled. That part wasn't bad because I wanted out, but it's when everything fell upon me. Like an orchestrated, multi-pronged, what's that word when mountains crumble and rush down the hills? Not landslide. It's like a landslide though. There's a word for it. It escapes me. Anyway, you know what I mean. It started really intensely then, and it was kept up, the pressure on me, right up until 2015, when I finally said, I'm out of here. I'm out of this life. And the God sent me back. The God sent me back. And in 2019, they sent me back again with a warning. We're sending you back to a hellscape of epic proportions, but you, Tanya, will be okay. And I sort of kind of am okay. Some days are still very, very difficult to recalibrate from all the trauma, and other days I'm grinding opals and reading stories and talking to my little handsome birdie boys, and I am indeed okay. Right, boys, on that note, I think I'll finish here. I was going to carry on with chapter 7, but we're an hour in, and uploading issues can be problematic. I have a feeling this is going to be a long chapter. No, it's not. Well, anyway, I may come back later, or I may come back tomorrow. I'll see how I feel. In the meantime, 3-eye atlas, influenza A, COVID poisoning, PFOS in our water, DDT, Agent Orange, leaking Fukushima, all the other doom and gloom scenarios that we as a collective have survived and are still surviving. Choose to be happy, people of Earth. It's the ultimate revenge against our enemies. Choose to be happy, and if you possibly can, dance. Goddess bless.